Good evening. This is the Monday, April 26, 2021 Select Board meeting for the town of North Andover. We're having a virtual session. This live broadcast, it can be heard at www.northandovercam.org. So pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GLC 30, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the North Andover Select Board will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general requirements for remote participations by the members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website at www.northandoverma.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so on their televisions by tuning to Comcast Channel 8 or Verizon Channel 26 or online at www.northandovercam.org. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Town of North Andover website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. So let me call our meeting to order, and let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right, so we'll start off our evening tonight as we do with public comment. And again, because we're remote, public comment may be submitted at www.northandoverma.gov/SB public comments. Madam Town Manager, we had some public comment, correct?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do. So we have several public comments in favor of flying the Gay Pride flag in the month of June. I'm going to read the names. I think I have 23 total, and I'm going to butcher all of the names because I have phonics issues. So I apologize, but I'm going to do my best here.
Thank you.
Eileen Kelly, Stephanie Odd, Maureen Mahler, Hillary Alden, Cheryl Bruce, Karen Burnett, Joanna O'Connell, Kimberly Maroney, Ida Miller, Brittany Bratt, Elisa Goldberg, Helen Fuller, Michael Liss, Jennifer Fresson, who is the proponent of the item tonight, Kathleen Caldwell, Mariah Kennedy, Michelle Filial, Joe Hicks, Chris Allen, Brian Hansen, Carrie Lockery, Bill Callahan, and one that I think was just Declan. So thank you. And then we had one other public comment. Oh, and additionally, all of these public comments will be attached to the agenda item. Right now, many of them are, and ones that have come in later today will also be added as well. And we had one other public comment that was in relation to the Stevens Estate. Would you like me to read that one?
Please.
Okay, so this is from Bradford Wakeman on Academy Road, and it's dated April 14th, 2021. Dear Select Board, I eventually listened to the Select Board meeting on April 5th. A few comments. 1, boy, did I have a lot to say. And thanks to the town manager for her excellent and patient reading. The first time anyone's ever called me patient, so this is good. 2, this letter is shorter. 3, I heard some frustration from the Select Board that the trustees did not accept responsibility for their RFPs being submitted minutes late. I understand the trustees sent 2 letters in March, both of which forthrightly acknowledge they responded late. The attached letter states, we accept that our submittal has been rejected, and we offer our regrets for the late delivery of our RFP response, as many in town expressed their eager support of our management of the Stevens Estate, and to them, we apologize. I added the emphasis here and the highlighting in the letter. I, and many others, continue to believe the current path is counter to the voice of town meeting, counter to the recommendations of the Stevens Estate Long-Term Advisory Committee, and counter to public input. That said, I understand the process, and I have no reason to believe Fireside Banquets will not do a fine job running their business at the Stevens Estate. if this does go to Fireside, I hope the select board will encourage some arrangement in partnership with the trustees for the preservation of the Hartwell and Richardson House in the surrounding Osgood Hill, which was one of North Andover's greatest historic preservation and land conservation accomplishments. And that is the end of the public comments for tonight, Mr. Chair.
I appreciate it. And again, thank you, Mr. Wakeman, for your comments. And again, all 23 folks who took the time to comment, we much appreciate it, and those will be posted. All right, so we move on. We have a public hearing. It's a poll petition, so I just need a motion to move into that, please.
Chair, I'll motion that we move into a public hearing to hear a petition from National Grid for underground conduits on Brentwood Circle.
Mr. Chair, I'll second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? We'll just have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposition, 5-0. Motion passes, and we're in public hearing. Do we have anybody from National Grid who will speak to this?
I believe we have Chris Wellington, although we cannot hear him.
Okay, well, take a minute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh, Michelle? Michelle?
Yeah.
There we go.
good.
It's like it's an echo.
We can hear you fine, Michelle.
Oh, okay. National Grid is asking to replace the underground cables on Brentwood Circle. There's been a lot of faults, and they just want to replace it before it becomes more frequent.
This is Chris Wellington. I'm the program manager. And
Hi, Chris.
hi, Michelle. So I can speak more directly to the specific sections of the cable that we have 2 sections of cable that we're asking to replace as soon as possible, and that's what this petition is for. And the section of cable that we're asking for conduit runs from a transformer between house 25 and 37, and the conduit's out in the public right of way, and it goes to a second transformer between house 49 and 61. Our intention is to have the contractor do the installation of the conduit via directional drill, so we have the least amount of impact as possible on the properties and the public right of way. What they do is they dig a pit near the transformer, and then they use a drill to enter into the ground about 30 inches, and they dig horizontally with the drill, and then they have another pit near the other transformer that they're heading towards, and then they pull the pipe back underground. They do need to make some access poles if they're crossing a utility. There's only 4 driveways that will be passing under. Most people are concerned about the driveways. Usually there aren't utility crossings in driveways, but if there is, we would dig a small hole, and then we would patch it for now, but we would replace the end of the driveway. We're looking at doing this construction like mid-May, and I'll be sending out a letter if this petition passes to everybody in the neighborhood, so everybody knows what's going on and why we're there, and it'll include my cell phone number and my email, so people can reach out to me with questions. And I think that covers it. If there's anything else, Michelle can jump in if I missed anything.
Mr. Chair, there is no public
Okay.
comment on this item at all. The application is in order, and there is conditions that are recommended by the DPW.
Yeah, and I see we've got conservation is fine.
Yes.
Other questions from the board on this?
I just have a quick question, and just for my own information, is there any problems after the direct drilling with compaction of the soils in settlement?
We've never had an issue with compaction of soils because part of the process is when we pull the pipe back, we pump in a clay slurry that hardens around the pipe. So we've never had anything that is that settles from the drilling.
Okay, great, thanks, Chris.
And what is the total distance that's going to be pulled of the cable?
I'll have to look at the drawing, but off the top of my head, I think one section's about 425 and the other one is about 690.
And that only crosses 4 driveways?
Yes. There's only on one side of the street, and we're just going from transformer to transformer in each location. Any lawn that we would be digging up to make the access pit, we would backfill, and then we would put looms in seed, and then we were going to hydro seed when we're done.
And what was the proposed date for doing this?
We have a couple jobs lined up in front of it, but we're looking at mid-May.
Okay. That's great. Plenty of time for the grass seed to grow and everything to come back in.
Right time of year.
Yeah. And we're looking at, we probably will be there 3 to 5 days at most.
Any other thoughts, comments? Good? Okay. Well, we appreciate that. I think we've got the information again full in the packet here, so we appreciate the input. If there's no other discussion, I'll hear a motion to close the hearing.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the select board close the public hearing in accordance with general laws, chapter 166, section 22, to receive comments regarding the application of National Grid to install underground conduits on Brentwood Circle.
Thank you. Thank you, Rosemary. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
No opposition, passes 5-0, so we're all good.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, if it's so pleases, could you take new business item A out of order so our new HR director can go home?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So I can go ahead and introduce her background a little bit. I think she was able to meet with some of you.
Yes.
So I'm introducing Kerry Messenger, who will be joining us as the Human Resources Director from the Reading Public Schools, where she is the HR Director currently. She also worked at the University of Massachusetts Lowell, where she was the Associate Director of Labor Relations and Compliance. Prior to that, she was at Boston Housing Authority, where she was the Director of Human Resources. And before that, she was with the City of Boston as Labor Counsel. She is licensed to practice in the Commonwealth. We won't hold that against her. She'll be the fourth attorney on the floor. But it's going to be fine. And this might be the first time she's finding that out, but so we'll wish her luck. And she went to law school at Suffolk as well as her undergrad. She is a member of SHRM, which is very important for us, and also is procurement certified as well for an associate MCPPO. So we're very excited to welcome her as part of the team. And she is starting in June.
Wonderful.
Congratulations.
Welcome.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome, welcome. Well, your work impacts a lot of this community. We not necessarily see it directly day to day, but, really vitally important, especially as we come through this pandemic and people make adjustments. So thank you for the work that we anticipate you're going to have to carry. You bet, you bet. Okay, so we're good with that. Shall we move in?
We need a
Oh,
vote.
oh, that's right.
We can't miss
So I'm
that
ready to
part.
send you home. You're all
Yeah,
good
we're
to
not
roll.
gonna
All right,
I'll move approval.
please.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Welcome
Welcome to
aboard
North Andover.
formally.
Everybody's more excited than me.
Yeah. Please
One
roll.
less hat to wear, huh, Dee?
Right, I can't wait.
Welcome, Gary. Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Good night.
Bye, Karen.
Okay, now,
Exactly.
yeah, sorry, Rosa, I didn't want to jump too fast. So I'll just hear a motion to move into licensing, please.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we open a meeting of the North Andover Licensing Commission.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pass 5-0, and we're in licensing.
Thank you. We are
Sure.
now in licensing. So we have a couple things a little different tonight on the licensing agenda. So the first item is one for the Royal Crest site, and it's an application of AIMCO TTA for a license to store 11,000 gallons of propane on site in 22,500 WG above-ground tanks located at 28 Royal Crest Drive. So with that, I believe we need to open a public hearing.
Okay, move that the select board acting as the licensing commissioners open the public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 148, Section 13, to receive comments regarding the application of AIMCO/TTA for a license to store 11,000 gallons of propane at 28 Royal Crest Drive.
Okay, so we are now, well,
Second?
we need a second.
I'll second that.
Can we have a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It's unanimous, and so we now have a public hearing.
Madam Chair, maybe I could just give a little bit of background.
Thank you.
So about 6 months ago, and you'll see there's a memo in your packet from Lieutenant, who is the fire prevention officer at this time. About 6 months ago, Eastern Propane took over the contract to supply propane to Royal Crest. And as they were doing that, they did an analysis of the system and found 2 minor leaks in the underground copper lines. So for that reason, they're asking to upgrade the entire system. Rather than be an underground system, it's going to be an above-ground system, which is much safer, and that the fire department is very excited about. One of the things that you'll note is that this was a similar situation to what happened at the hardware store earlier in the year. We've really kind of upped our fire prevention policies and procedures, and we've been finding that some of the propane tanks historically had not been licensed. This one went back, I want to say about 40 years, 1960s, longer. So, you know, it had been a long time coming. So we're excited that not only one, that they're coming before us to the proper and appropriate paperwork, but also that they're going to be moving them above ground. And both of them are the same process and issue, and there are no public comments on either one. And I don't know if anyone
Thought I saw someone.
anyone from Eastern Propane on the call?
Yes, Jim Blake, Regional Manager
There
for
you go.
Eastern Propane.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Do we want to hear both licenses at the same time?
If that's acceptable, that would,
Absolutely.
and I'm getting a nod from our town manager, yes, why don't we do that, because they're just basically the same, except the amounts are a little bit different, but, yes, if you could kind of explain, I have to say, my first reaction is, we're putting all of that propane above ground, but, we did get, a letter of support from the fire department, so I would like for you, if you could explain to all of us, and how we can be assured that it's a safe practice above ground, to just let the public know. Go ahead, sir.
Sure. So if I understood what you were saying, you'd like me to explain what we're doing, which I can do.
There you
And
go.
what it is we were asked to take a look at the system and take it over, and the tanks, underground tanks that were installed that long ago, we found that there was some installation pieces that needed to be addressed along with other items, and the decision was to move to above ground storage tanks. These are actually 500-gallon storage tanks that would go, frankly, behind any house anywhere in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, including North Andover. And so we're moving to those. The thought process is that at some point, they're going to be developing that area, and these tanks will eventually be removed. We don't know when that will be. I think that falls under the planning board and other people above everybody that would determine what's going to go on with that property. So we're trying to upgrade and make everything safer, cleaner, and all up to code, which is one reason we're here this evening.
So you said that they are, so where are they located? I can't imagine that they'd be located right near where people drive their cars. So in the picture, it was it was kind of sketchy, so not drawn exactly.
Okay, the tanks, okay, Massachusetts code, which falls under the 5 Mass Fire Code 527 CMR, dictates minimum distances for where vehicle traffic and buildings and things based on tank size. These all have a minimum distance of at least 10 feet away from vehicular traffic, and the drawing is is small, however, the area is very large. So these tanks are all well away from any vehicular traffic.
Okay,
And they're actually going where the underground tanks are now. The underground tank will be removed. The holes will be, filled back in and so forth, and the underground tank, the above ground tanks will go in the same vicinity. So, with an underground tank, the valve clusters come to above ground. So these tanks, literally the location is marginal in change.
okay.
And while the underground tanks are being removed, do folks have to evacuate the buildings, or what's the process for removing those underground tanks?
Oh, no, nobody has to move. Moving these tanks is really a very normal, everyday practice, goes on throughout the Commonwealth. Just so you know, propane does burn. Sometimes people think propane explodes. Propane does not explode. It does burn. That's what makes it a heating fuel. It's also clean. Propane's also a clean fuel according to the Clean Air Act. It doesn't contaminate water, air, or soil. Now, so when those tanks come out, what we're doing right now is actually running the tanks down as low as we can get them. Preferably, they'll all be down, and then they will be taken out of the ground and transported off-site, and they'll be at 5% or below when we move off-site.
And what's the time frame that this project will be happening? And the
We'd
duration?
like to get going, once the license is through its appeal period and everything, we would plan to start within a couple of weeks. And ideally, this will be completed before late summer.
Oh, so it takes quite a while. If you
We're
could
gonna
just-
do these one at a time. We're not gonna go in and, there'll be one or two at a time.
Okay, so obviously,
Okay, we want to expedite it as quickly as possible, just from a labor standpoint and resources.
so these are for heat for the building? Is that what it's for?
Actually, hot water.
Oh, because it didn't seem like enough to heat those buildings. I mean, I am a little familiar with propane heat for people's homes, and I thought, gee, that doesn't sound very warm to me, but, so it's for hot water, okay.
Yes.
Can you just again, edification for folks, but why is our fire department happy to see these in this position as opposed to underground? What's the advantage from a safety standpoint?
Honestly, from a safety standpoint, putting the tanks above ground it does not make them safer. The installations will be safer because we're upgrading all of the underground line that's in there. We found that the line has deteriorated over time. So you're going to end up with brand new installations, which inherently are going to be safer than installations that are, 40 years old.
Boy, does
Placing a tank in the ground and placing a tank above ground, that we're not increasing safety by putting the tank above ground per se. We're increasing safety because we're improving the overall conditions.
Right, understand. Well, and this community certainly understands about pipelines and
Yeah,
age.
we're not big fans of gas that much, other than we
well-
understand we all need it, and even some of us still put gas back in our home after very unfortunate circumstances, so
But that's-
we like being warm.
But upgrading the line, so that's really the benefit that we get. And again, that's I think valuable to us as a community from a safety standpoint. So appreciate that clarification.
You're welcome.
What will the interruption in service be? How long will the tenants be out of hot water?
If we do our job the way we want, they'll probably only be out of hot water for a period of hours.
Great. And
And frankly, if it's in the middle of the day, when we change it over, we can do a temporary tank or something in the process Our goal is not to inconvenience anybody.
That's great.
We can do a temporary connection if needed, but
Okay. And how far down are the existing tanks in the ground?
they're probably about 12 inches under the soil. And typically a tank is about 3 feet in diameter.
Yeah.
So the hole, once the tank comes out, will be approximately 4 foot by 10 foot.
Okay. Wow. And how do you get them? Do you have to use an excavate, like a backhoe, or how do you get them out?
Yes, they use the backhoe.
Backhoe.
And Royal Crest and Amoco, they have a site contractor that they work with over there all the time. They'll be doing the site work under our supervision.
Gotcha. Okay. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anything from anybody else? So just so everybody understands, we joined the two public hearings together, so if someone,
If you don't mind, I'd still open the second one, just so we satisfy the
Okay, that's
requirements.
fine.
But it's okay, it was fine to speak on both of them. There is no public comments for the second one either, but I would still open and close them both.
okay.
So we need to close the first one.
Close the
right?
first one, then open and close the one, close it, yeah.
Okay, Madam Chair, I move that the Select Board acting as licensing commissioners close the public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 148, Section 13, to receive comments regarding the application of AMCO TTA/TTA for a license to store 11,000 gallons of propane at 28 Royal Crest Drive.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's a unanimous vote. So as the town manager just stated, if we could have a motion to quickly open.
Move that the Select Board acting as the licensing commissioners open the public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 148, Section 13, to receive comments regarding the application of AMCO/TTA for a license to store 1,500 gallons of propane at 1 Royal Crest Drive.
I'll second.
We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that's a unanimous vote.
Madam Chair, there are no public comments on this item.
Okay. So if the board.
I believe you said 1,500, it's 15,000.
15,000, thank you, appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Just a
Just
decimal
off
place.
a little bit.
Yeah, just a decimal place, but they count, I get it.
It's hard to read with masks and glasses and all kinds of things. It's always a
That was
little bit of a
kind. That
blur.
was kind, Rosemary.
Okay, so if there's no further questions or comment, I entertain
Okay.
another
Move-
motion.
Yep, move that the Select Board acting as the licensing commissioners close the public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 148, Section 13, to receive public comments regarding the application of AMCO/TTA for a license to store 15,000 gallons of propane at 1 Royal Crest Drive.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, you got that?
Yep.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that is a unanimous vote. And, okay, so I will
Can I make a motion?
entertain another motion,
keep it rolling
please.
here?
Yeah,
Okay.
here we go. I'm trying to make sure I got them all straight.
Yeah, we get the groove, keep the groove going. All right. Move that the Select Board acting as licensing commissioners approve the requests of AMCO/TTA for licenses to store propane in the above-ground tanks located at 8 Royal Crest Drive and 1 Royal Crest Drive as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, and with a correction, it is 28 Royal Crest Drive. Just, you said 8, so 28. Just
Wow.
want to keep everything above board.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and again, that is a unanimous vote. And we're good to go.
Awesome.
Or did we need to, did you want us to vote on the other one too? Are we separating those, or are we good with that? Okay. Okay, thank
So
you.
did you vote on both? I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Yes, we did.
Yep.
I re-verified that and we're good. But thank you for,
Thank you very much for
Checking
your
in.
time this evening.
thank you. Have a good night. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is, let me see, request from Ashley Pizza of, oh, excuse me, that's her name, I did that as I read it the first time. So, we have a request from Ashley Piazza of Smolak Farms for 2 one-day wine and malt liquor licenses in Pive Grove 10 on May 13th, 2021, for a reception from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., and on May 20th, 2021, for a dinner from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And so I believe everything is in order on this. Does anybody from the board have any questions?
I just have a question in general. Do we limit one-day licenses? Is there a limit to what we can,
How many one-days?
Under your policy, I believe it's 30?
30?
That's gonna be- yeah.
That ultimately, that's why we kind of changed our relationship with Merrimack to give them licenses because they were such frequent flyers.
Gotcha.
But it is something with Smolak, they have many requests, that
Yeah,
is true.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So it's 30 per, like Smolak, it's
Are we-
30.
How close are we getting to running out, seeing how we're,
Yeah.
it's a
per-
calendar year?
Calendar
That's
year.
right, too, because of
Yeah,
licensing.
this is the first two that I know. that you
Yeah.
guys-
Yeah,
Okay, so we're good on that.
Yep.
All right.
good question.
Okay, so if anyone has any questions, I'll entertain.
So obviously, all rules and regulations around COVID will be honored
Yes,
at these
they met with
events.
the health department, and the health department confirmed that they can only have outdoor events. They're limited to 150 people. They're not allowed to have walk-up bars. There's no self-service food. And they will adhere to all of those protocols.
Now, if for some reason that there were, what comes from the State House changes,
Mm-hmm.
then,
They usually meet with Steve Casey closer to the event. The last year, he did walkthroughs before they had them. I envision that we'll probably end up having walkthroughs again this year.
okay, so that they won't be shortchanged,
Absolutely.
which would be a good thing. That means we're progressing, so.
Fingers crossed.
Okay, all righty, so I'll entertain a motion if the board
Madam
so.
Chair, I'll move the select board acting as licensing commissioners approve the request of Ashley Piazza of Smolak Farms for 2 one-day wine and malt liquor license for events in the Pine Grove Tent on May 13th, 2021, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., and on May 20th, 2021, from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m.
We have a motion.
Second?
And we have a second.
Mhm.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and that's a unanimous vote. All right, great. So next item on the agenda is a request of Dolly Miller of Psychic Readings, 163 Turnpike Street, for renewal of the fortune teller's license. Do we have, I believe it would be Ms. Miller with us, or someone from Dolly Miller Psychic Readings?
Hi,
Oh, gee.
I've had them here today though.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well.
Okay,
Okay, so this is an application for a renewal, so it's an existing business.
yes.
Um,
How many years have you been operating now? As that, you said that, because it's a renewal. It's been quite a few years now.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just curious, do you recall how many? It's okay. We know
I think it's like 5.
feels like-
well, it's long enough, so, yeah. It's, is there anything you'd like to talk about it, or present, or anything at all?
Just a bit different now. We've got the COVID part. It's a lot of FaceTime readings. As you guys know, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
That's really, I give the option of FaceTime or in person, but it's mostly FaceTime.
Okay. But yeah, that's a little bit out of our control at this particular point in time, but hopefully we'll be all moving in the right direction shortly.
Hopefully.
Yes. Does the board have any questions or concerns? Anything? All right, with that, I will entertain a motion.
Move, go ahead.
I move that the select board acting as licensing commissioners approve the request of Dolly Miller of Psychic Readings, 163 Turnpike Street, for renewal of a fortune teller's license.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
And we now have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that is a unanimous vote. And congratulations. And
Thank you so much.
thank you for being here this evening.
No problem.
Okay, so with that, I believe that's the end of our licensing.
Madam Chair, I'll move to close the meeting of the North Andover Licensing Commission.
We have a motion to close the meeting, licensing committee meeting, and do we have a second?
Second.
And we have a second by Laura. All those in favor say aye,
Aye.
and that is a unanimous vote, and we are now out of licensing.
Thank you, Rosemary. Okay, so we have Carrie in, so we'll move to our second item under new business, which is vote on the request of National Grid to install the underground conduits at Brentwood Circle.
I'll move that the select board approve the request of National Grid to install underground conduits on Brentwood Circle as presented.
Great, thank you.
I second.
Great, appreciate it. Any other conversation or questions, discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, passes 5-0, so we're all good on that. Now, one of our folks that we always love to hear from, this is a request from Rick Gorman, the Director of our Youth and Recreation Services, to set the 2021 fees for Stevens Pond. And I see Rick there. Hey, Rick.
How are you?
We're doing all right.
I'm back again, once again, as you said, to discuss the fees for Stevens Pond. Just want to spend a couple of minutes. You all received our yearly package, which gives you an update on things before we present actually our two plans for the fees. I think most people know that we had a rough summer at the pond last year, and it actually had nothing to do with COVID. We actually had a great plan, safety-wise, to run the beach during the pandemic last summer, but we had a major issue with water quality. We got the first part of the summer started, and then we were basically off and on closed for the next 6 weeks. And then we back-ended it, was able to pretty much finish the last 2 weeks out. The major problem with the water quality has a lot to do with our geese issue down there. So Melissa and Dee and myself have been working really hard with obviously DPW and to find a fix for this. And the first thing is Melissa approved the installation of an aerator at the pond, which we actually got done this fall. It's all ready, it's working, it's great. It's actually gonna move the water a lot more. We do have obviously some issues when the water gets really hot and not have any rain. And then we also have issues sometimes when we get torrential rains, the next day rolls into the pond. So as most people know, we test the water weekly, and we'll obviously continue to do that. But we see the aerator as a big help in this whole area. On top of that, we're working with our amazing police department because we've talked to a number of other ponds about geese. And one of the best things is to buy a dog for the pond. Well, we're not going to buy a dog for the pond, but our dog officer and our comfort dog officer are actually going to, on a daily basis before we open, run the beach. And obviously, geese are afraid of animals, so that'll take place. And then we've also been installing a couple of mechanical things which keep geese off of there too. So we've invested a lot of time and some money into this, and we're very excited that we will be back operational. Last summer was the worst summer in the 20 years that I've been running it. Normally, we're the best pond in the area, and last year we had probably the toughest time. So on top of that, we are continuing some new things due to the great grant from the Community Preservation Grant. Starting in 2 weeks, we have a brand new playground being installed at the pond. We will also be working with DPW for our blue-green algae maintenance that we've been doing since the big blue-green algae issue. We're actually having some new sand put down, and we're very excited. We have to follow a number of our COVID guidelines, which we got approved last year from the health department and the town manager's office. Glad to say many of those restrictions have been lifted a bit. So it's going to be actually easier to run the pond than it was even last year. We will see the return of swimming lessons. We will see the return of the use of our equipment down there. So we're pretty excited that with the effects of what we can do with the water quality, that Stevens Pond will be back operational the way it's always been. And if it's any indication to the amount of people that have buying our summer programs, we expect the biggest year down at Stevens Pond also. So that brings us to obviously what we come every year. And Rosemary and I have been
Uh-oh.
you one proposal, which is the existing fees that we charged as of last year. And then the proposed fees is an increase. For most people, Rosemary will remember this, I am charged every year by the select board to come up with two plans, almost a level funded plan and what it would cost to make it pretty much a self-sustaining program down there. Last year, due to COVID, we did have more expenses because we had to hire some more staff for sanitation. I'm happy to say that the CARES Act actually reimbursed us on that. So we are, prior to the pandemic, we were getting close, not totally, but getting close to making this totally self-sufficient. So as you see the proposed fees for 21, you will see increases in most of the things. As you do every year, you guys will have to be comfortable with what you want to charge. Obviously, we're coming off a rough year. Melissa did approve some reimbursements to people that did not like the lack of use that we had down there. Some people stayed with us through the whole summer. So again, you'll probably have to factor that into your decision this year with the fees. But we are excited about this year, and we think we are going to be back to total normal down there with just the only thing difference, obviously, still following some COVID guidelines. So those are the fees for you to take a look at.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
So Rick, just a question, all things being equal with the 2020 fees that were in place, if we didn't have the geese problem, I think you said we were approaching self-sustaining with the 2020 fees, right?
Correct.
And
We were, to 2019, Dick, we brought in $35,000 and we expended 42.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's still a deficit of 7. Now, people remember that town meeting appropriates X amount of dollars for Stevens Pond every year, and that it's my job to try to close the gap as much as we have. So if you're looking at some of the years past, we've been kind of closing the gap bit by bit. Obviously, everything is pertaining to the weather we have during the summer, and then nobody saw a global pandemic on it. So if you notice last year, we only brought in $21,000, and we had to expend $50,000, of which we were reimbursed. We were reimbursed a little over $3,000 by the CARES Act.
So if we were to stay with the 2020 funding or fee schedule, do you feel that we would still be on track to attaining the self-sustaining?
The interesting thing is, our summer programs went on sale on April 5th. And programs that take 2 months to sell out actually sold out between 3 hours and 28 hours. I believe this is going to transfer to the pond. I think people are looking to get out. I think people want to use our natural resource that we have here in North Andover. So I don't want to say it'll be totally level funded, Dick, but I think we can get back to where we were prior to the pandemic if we kept level funded. If you increase the fees, I'm convinced we'll definitely be there.
Okay. Thank you, Rick.
Having said that, Mr. Chair, I move that we keep the fees at the same level as last year. Again, we're coming off a pandemic. There are a lot of families that are still hurting, and this will be their vacation. It's be their staycation, and we want all our kids to learn how to swim and have fun during the summer. They've had no playtime in schools. Well, they have, but not to the level that I think we all would like to see. Rick, I know you've seen things that have been somewhat troubling because of all of this, and I don't want one family, even though we do have backup for families in need, I think they should stay at this level again. So I'm making a motion stating that.
And I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Discussion.
Rick, what's the limit on the number of passes that will be sold this summer versus the number of passes sold in summers past?
So it's kind of tricky to make that decision today. We were under different guidelines last year. If you remember correctly, we actually had to corner off every other parking space. So my concern would be is we are allowed to basically, the beach regulations are different than some of our other regulations. I think what I would be most concerned about is if 300 people buy a permit starting next Monday, I think we're going to have to cap it off. History, we've never had to cap it off. So I think I think the select board's going to have to trust me to monitor that. And I think it would be tough for us to put an actual number on that today without knowing what the real need is and where the governor stands on beach regulation. And one of the things that we've learned, and what I did last year, was be careful of making decisions 2 months before, because if I had made decisions about summer programs last year 2 months before, we would have never had summer programs. So I would like the leeway to look at the most latest regulations. They're not going to go backwards. I'm hoping they're going to go forwards.
Also, is there a limit on the number of reduced fee or free passes that we can give out to families? Like, do we generally meet all of those requests, or are people denied those?
So we do a great job. First of all, with the North Andover Housing Authority, we actually have a reduced fee for our senior citizens, and anybody who would like to request financial assistance can do that directly with me. We've never turned anybody away. Some people pay a sliding fee. Sometimes we have to pay the whole thing. We average about 6 to 10 of those a summer. I expect, to Rosemary's point, I'm very outspoken about some of the things that are happening financially with our residents, but also the social emotional stuff. I think we need to find a way to not turn anybody away with the inability to pay. And I'm pretty proud to say we have never turned anybody away before of the inability to pay.
Now, Rick, refresh my memory that you might have done this last year. Do we limit some of the large groups that come to the beach because of the limitations on numbers? We certainly don't want a large group to come and then everybody else goes home, but so.
Correct. So one of the things we had to do, Rosemary, was we did have some people that were choosing to have like a family birthday party on 4th of July. And we've had to limit people when they request that. We first of all listen to how many people they're going to have, but we've had to kind of limit that to not turn away the regular people that have a permit already. The one thing is, permits do sell at a rapid rate. It will affect how many day passes we can sell on a daily basis. Day passes open up at noontime, and that will be based on how many people are on the beach at that time. So we open and close the day passes throughout the day.
Okay. And hopefully the guidelines will, be lessened a little bit with the vaccines, and hopefully, maybe we won't run into too much of that.
We will have a final meeting with the health department in June. We're on the same page right now. We had a very good meeting last year that worked really well. I'm just excited that some of the real strict limitations have already been eased. So that's why I'm feeling we're going to be as close as to be pre-pandemic.
I was just going to say,
I'm comfortable with keeping the 2020 fees for this year, but I think that one thing that we should consider for next year is bringing forward a 5-year plan. I think it's hard when we see something increased by $25 or by 25%. It's a lot to get comfortable with, but if we found a way to have a 5-year plan where maybe it increases by 3% or 4%, and that's only a couple of dollars, it might be easier to start easing towards this becoming self-sufficient. So maybe that's something, Rick, that we could work on together next year.
And you know,
Absolutely. We have a 5-year plan on facility, space, and some of the things. So I think we tie the 5-year plan in with an increase. And again, $25 might be a lot, but if we start going from 5 to 10, I think we can get there. So I think we should combine that with our 5-year facility plan down there.
And I do not disagree. I think Rick can verify that no, we're going to keep them the same for a long time now. Rick and I, and the other members of the board. But I think that's definitely worth looking at, and I think that seems fair and reasonable. At some point, we are going to have to raise fees. I mean, and we've had a very good run, but if we can do it slowly and still offer assistance to families in need, whether they pay just a portion or if they get a pass altogether. I certainly wouldn't be opposed to that.
I do need to add, Rosemary, that we are in a 3-year plan to raise, because the minimum wage, we don't fall technically under it because it's seasonal, municipal, but we are working towards, instead of going up once in 1 year. So I do need to let the select board know our payroll is going to increase the next 3 years by small increments, because we have to pay the lifeguards and the gate attendants what they should be paid.
And I was, without saying it, that's what I was taking into consideration too, that, and lifeguards can be very difficult to get. It's a rigorous program, and maybe more so even this year because the kids generally learn at the Y, and I have no idea, but I would imagine that did affect maybe some of the new lifeguards coming out, so.
Well, Rosemary, you'll remember when your son was a lifeguard there, everybody wanted the 40 hours a week. Right now, it's hard to get lifeguards for 40. They're interested in more work in 20. So we're actually using more lifeguards, less full-time lifeguards, and more part-time to just make the need. And the reality is, a lot of places are not certifying lifeguards this year because of COVID. And I just think that's something we've done a really good job. I talked to Kelly today. We are almost all fully staffed. And I know some of our peers are struggling to fill those positions. So I just think we got to continue the course that we're on.
Rick, I just have a couple questions for you. When was the last
Sure.
time that we increased fees down at the pond?
It has been really, and it was very minor. We increased the daily adult passes from 12 to 15 2 years ago. The season car pass and the swimming lessons of 75 and 50 have not been increased in over 12 years.
So it's been a while. And obviously, costs have increased. And Rosemary, your point about, this might be it for some families, right, going down to the pond, I truly appreciate that. And what do other area ponds charge? Are we in step with them, or are we behind or ahead?
So we're actually closer than people think. I think each town deals with it very similar to us. They don't want to outprice their residents. Most of these ponds, like ours, Rosemary remembers, at one point there was no fee to use our ponds. So most of them are in the ballpark, 75 to 100 on the season car pass. The one thing that we are very undercharged is the swimming lessons. I say this every year, to get your kids to learn how to swim in 4 weeks for $50, that's an absolute bargain.
Absolutely.
And that's per kid, right? That's per child.
Yeah.
That's not a family rate,
50
right?
per child, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you're absolutely right. The kids really learn to swim because they're going every day. And it's amazing from the beginning of the summer to the end. But correct me if I'm wrong, there were 2 series of lessons. It's not, that's not for the whole season, isn't it? There's like an A
That's
and a
correct,
B.
Rosemary.
Okay,
Session 1 is 4 weeks, 4 days for 4 weeks. So it's 16 days. And then we do another 4 weeks for the 8 weeks that we're down there. But it is amazing how quick the kids learn by basically being in there 4 days a week for 4 weeks.
but it doesn't not include the season's pass. So it's a season's pass if you have 3 kids and they take
Plus
2,
the,
and then they take 2 sessions. It does add, that does
Oh, it
add
does,
up.
but it's
Yeah.
still a bargain.
It's still a
It's
bargain,
such a
but
bargain.
not for everybody, you know, if it's
Right.
choice
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
paying the rent and.
Oh, absolutely.
And
but-
that's a tough choice because we all want, I feel so strongly about this and I know everybody in the room does, but Rick and I talk, we really want our kids to learn how to swim. It could save their life.
Yep.
And it's a great sport, it's enjoyable,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll have fun if they feel comfortable in the water because they know how to swim, so. But I agree with the plan going forward. I don't think that's unreasonable. It would be great if we could just have at least this year after everything everybody's gone through of not an
I mean,
increase.
I could see raising the season car pass and then keeping the swimming lessons at where they are. I mean, I think that would, if you raise the car pass to $100, that's gonna bring in, I think, another $7,000 or so.
Yep.
So that would be
We
something,
meet in the middle and raise the season car pass to $80 or $85. And, I mean, we are avid pond users. I buy the pass every year. Some years we go very frequently, other years we don't, but it's, we're all happy, whether I use it or not, I'm happy, to support. And knowing that we've never turned a family away really gives me some comfort in maybe inching a small bit toward increasing.
The one thing I would just say is that we look at this, and we're just kind of stepping into the math. If we maintain the fees for 2020, the difference between that and the estimated revenue for the proposed fee is about $11,000. So if we keep the fees the way they are now for this year, that's $32,000 as opposed to $43,000, which, again, I think the consensus I'm hearing around here is that's something that makes sense for our community to do collaboratively, but also recognize the fact that we've been at the same fee structure for the 2 largest pieces for a decade plus, I think does, speak to the fact that we do need to have that kind of a plan because we're really stuck at a revenue level. And I'm glad this community has the capacity and, more importantly, the willingness to make this decision, to support it. So we've had a motion, we had a second. Is there readiness to vote, or as the motion was fees as proposed? Are we ready to vote, or is there more discussion on that?
It was the fees at 2020.
At the 2020
20
fees,
level.
right, as they are now?
I'm fine with it this year. I think that we just need to be realistic moving forward, that we need to start increasing them to cover our costs. Because regardless, right, the burden comes back on the taxpayers, right? Like, we have to make up that deficit. So I think that a long-term plan would be good.
but yeah, I think coming out of COVID, it makes sense to kind of keep things
Yep.
level. And then next year we'll revisit. And we'll try to remember this next year, this conversation. We'll say, "Well, we'll keep it the same for a 13th year."
I think due to COVID, it makes sense for this year, but I am on board with,
That sounds pretty unanimous too, even though we're not voting on that piece of it, so, yeah.
Well, let's have a vote on it formally then, for keeping the fees, again, for 2020 fee structure for 2021. All in favor? Aye. All right, so, Mr. Gorman, we're good, the fees stay for this year coming through. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your
we
hard
will,
work.
we will actually start selling them on Monday.
Oh, my
And I want the select board to be following social media, because Melissa and I are gonna go out in the rowboat and show you how the aerator works.
Yeah, I thought we were going swimming. You told me we were going swimming.
So you're
You
gonna go out in
first.
a rowboat, so does that mean it's going to be spraying all over you? No.
That's where we are gonna row out to where it will go all over Melissa, yes, but, no.
Okay, having
This is
said
the first
that,
time I've heard of this.
having said
A lot
that, we
of
should be
people wanna see
charging
how it works,
$10
so.
per person to see the two, and we're gonna,
Fundraiser. That's awesome, brother. That's great.
I'm sending D.
Oh.
Another hat to wear, Dee. This time it's a bathing cap.
Where's that HR director when you need her, huh?
oh my
Can't
gosh,
wait,
we
Rick.
would have
All right,
started.
thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Rick.
All right, thank
Much
you, Rick.
appreciated. It's always a good discussion. All right, our next order of business, request from Marjorie Rothschild of the North Andover Farmers Market to close First Street from Main Street to the driveway of First and Main Plaza every Sunday from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. from June 2nd, 2021 to October 3rd, 2021, and place banners on the poles at the Common. And is Marjorie with us? Yeah.
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
So tell us.
Okay, so I'm the chair of the Farmers Market Committee, and the market's going to be running First Street again this summer for our fourth season, starting on June 20th. I think you might have said June 2nd, but it's June 20th until October 3rd. Every Sunday, our hours are 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., and we set up starting about 8 a.m. in the morning, and then we're usually out of there by about 1:30. So we would want the road closed starting, what we do is we put up no parking signs along both sides of the street, split in the day on Saturday, so we don't have to worry about any cars being parked there when we arrive on Sunday morning. And then the street reopens again at 1:30 or so in the afternoon after we've cleaned it all up.
And this is the fourth year. How about that?
It's been a great market
addition.
since its beginning. Will there be changes this year, Marjorie, on how people will be able to access the market? I mean, last year it was very restricted. Is that going to be opened up in any way?
Yeah, so we've been talking a lot about that, and we're really continuing to follow the guidelines that are coming down from the state and the local level as well, since we're still a couple of months away. But it's our hope that we will be less strict about how people move through the market and how many people can go into the market. As you know, we were very careful to have one-way traffic last year and to limit the number of people and how people lined up at various booths. And so we're going to keep an eye on all that. We will certainly all be asking the vendors to wear masks and things like that so people still feel comfortable going to the market. And we're also hoping to increase the number of vendor booths that we have. So by end of last season, we had about 14 vendor booths on site every of the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season. And we're actually right now, we're going to be opening with 18 vendors on site. And we still will offer the online ordering with pickup at the market, but we're really happy that we're going to have a whole lot more vendors on site with still some good spacing in between them. So things don't get too uncomfortable or crowded for people who are still nervous.
That's great. That's great. Any other questions? Well,
I don't think so. It's a great
I
thing
think
to have.
too is Low 5 is once again stepped up as our exclusive sponsor, so we're really happy that they're sponsoring us again this year. And we're also I wanted to make folks aware too that we're also going to be having a fundraising booth back this year. So if there are organizations in town, nonprofit organizations who are interested in reserving one of the booths for Sunday to come down and sell baked goods or masks or t-shirts or whatever to raise funds for the organization, they can go to our website and they can fill out a request form and select dates that they'd like to come and reserve the fundraising booth. So we really wanted to try to add back in some of the community aspects of the market. And we thought that would be a really nice thing to be able to do again this year.
great.
Margie, thank you for taking the lead and making this event, this whole season happen, so appreciate your efforts.
Wonderful.
For those that comment, we have the pole banners, and you guys have probably seen them in previous years. We are making enough pole banners, so we would be on every other pole, not every pole, because we know during certain times of year, there are American flags, and there are other things that we like to publicize around on the pole banners around the common. So just want to make sure that was clear, that we would look to have the pole banners up starting in early June through early October, but on every other pole.
Just thank you. It's such a wonderful event, and we're so lucky to have it downtown, and it's another great community gathering spot for everybody, and hopefully the restrictions are lifted enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Social this year.
Right?
Everybody loves that aspect of it, really, just to come down there and walk around and just enjoy the town and really, support all the local businesses in that area as well. It serves so many functions, so we're really excited to kind of ease back into the more normal way of operating.
I'm sure the schools will be excited to be able to participate again and come down.
Yeah, so we want to try to get the word out about the fundraising. Like I said, there's more information on our website, and we're posting it on social media, but people can start to apply to reserve the booth on various Sundays between now and the end of the season.
That's great.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Other than that, I'll hear a motion, and
I move that the select board approve the request of Margie Rothschild of the North Andover Farmers Market to close the First Street from Main Street to driveway of First and Main Plaza every Sunday from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. from June, it says 2nd, but we mean 20th, through October 3rd, and to place the farmers market banners on every other pole at the common.
And I'll second.
thank you. Any other discussion? Then I'll-
Good luck. Good
Yes.
luck this year.
Good luck.
Hope it goes as well as it's been in the past. I know it will.
We hope for lots of sun.
All in
We
favor?
always have it.
Yes, and spread the word.
You bet. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. We'll see you in June. Take care.
Thank you.
Righto. Right now.
Thanks.
Okay. Hey, all kinds of good stuff to look forward to, huh?
It's spring.
Yes, indeed. All right, so next on our agenda is request of Eversource to excavate portions of Salem Street and Marble Ridge Road for the purpose of replacing a gas main.
Sure, so our next two items are both gas reliability projects. There are notes from both the police department and the public works department in both of them. The street opening permit does have conditions listed, including bringing the pavement back to its existing condition. And I believe we do have someone from Eversource on the call. I see Kyle. Anybody from Eversource? I see him on there.
Hi, this is, I'm one of the construction supervisors in the area. I know Kyle's on the call. I don't know if he's still on mute.
Okay, what did you say your name was? I'm sorry.
I'm Ken.
Kenny,
Well,
okay, perfect, thank you. Did you want to speak to the item?
sure, I'll speak to it. I know Kyle is on. I don't know if he's having problems with his mute or not, but I'll certainly try to fill you in on the job. The proposal, the Salem Street project, is part of our system improvement project in which we're trying to be rid of bare steel gas mains that have been in the ground for quite some time. And so that replacement project is approximately 2,500 feet that would run from on Salem Street up by Marble Ridge down to house number 444. And it would also connect into not only Marble Ridge, but Appleton Street and Annie Road as well. And it would affect approximately 23 customers with new service replacements or tie-overs at the same time. And yeah, I don't know, are there any questions that anybody might have on that?
Just, I guess, general question about time frame. How long will it take to do this work, and when do you expect to start it?
So we're hoping for a start time, the first week of May, like around the 4th.
Okay, soon.
And I think you would probably be looking at, honestly, close to a couple of months of work out there, including, tying all the services over and the abandonment of the old main.
Would there be any need for any traffic diversion during that
I do
period?
not believe so. No, we should be able to keep a lane of traffic open at all times. But we always feed off the police department if there's something that, something that needs to change out there, or, we kind of feed off of their recommendations, but we certainly would have through traffic during the whole process.
Absolutely in
Okay.
support of
And-
updating our infrastructure. I'm curious, would there be any interruption to these residents? And how long would that last?
Yeah, so the interruption to their house services would be approximately for a day. So the way it goes is we would replace all the main, and with our new main, once we got gas into it, then we would start swapping over the existing services onto the new main. So during that period, there would be an interruption in their gas for, half a day to a day. I would also say on that end, with the customers, what we generally do is we send a letter out to anybody that's affected by it before we even start the project. And then that would be followed up by phone calls. And then they would probably see one of our pipe fitters at their house to kind of run through what's involved. Every house will have a little different kind of an impact. And set up an appointment after that.
But they would get enough notice to know exactly what day they would have a service interruption. So if they needed to plan
Absolutely,
around
yes.
that, okay. And the
And
time,
enough time to answer any questions or concerns certainly that they might have with impact to their property.
right. And they would know what time, like, for example, if it was gonna, the service impact would start at 9 o'clock, right, or something like that, they would know in advance, so.
Well in advance,
If
correct,
people
yes.
heat with hot water, they can take their showers and everything else and cook and whenever they
Oh,
just
absolutely.
before they.
Yeah, they'll know certainly well in advance. It'll be an appointment that is, mutually agreed upon between the customer and us.
Okay, great.
Is this the start, sort of your kind of capital improvement of improving the infrastructure in town? And kind of your assessment of where our gas lines stand currently?
I would say yes to that, yeah. That start in this season for that for sure, yes.
When you met with us a few months ago, I think you said you were going to assess our systems and sort of come back with a plan of how you were going to systematically go through that. Have you guys started that process?
So that is something that engineering would be talking to the town about as far as direct projects. This is certainly one of them. I know that there's another one on Great Pond Road.
Yep.
Yep. Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Oh, there's
Yep.
Kyle.
Hey. Sorry guys,
All those in favor
my
say
mic was
no.
not
Nothing
cooperating.
just came on.
Oh my gosh. Alright, sorry I had to put you through that, Kenny.
Oh, no, it's all right. I don't know if you heard how far along we talked, but,
Yeah. No, you did he pretty much hit all the big points, especially with like the customers and things like that. But from an engineering standpoint, yes, we do have two bigger projects planned this year. This being one of them, Salem Street, to get rid of old infrastructure in the road, and then Great Pond Road as well. Those are the two at the top of our plate for North Andover.
And it will be an ongoing process, I assume, that you'll be evaluating the systems?
Yes, on a yearly basis, correct. Yep.
And when you replace these mains, will it be a trench, or how far do you have to open up the road?
It'll be about a 2-foot wide trench, and we're usually about 24, 36 inches down.
Down, right. And then will you just patch the road, or is it curb to curb?
Yep. We'll do like hot base and mill and overlay for the above the trench to make sure it settles in okay.
Madam Town Manager, do we know when those roads are due to be paved?
So typically, we meet with Eversource and National Grid at the beginning of each construction season. And I know that they did meet with DPW, correct? To go over the
Yes, we
pavement
did.
plans, right? And so you're doing this before we would be paving these streets, correct? Neither,
correct. Yeah,
neither one of
that's
them are
all.
within a moratorium.
Okay.
Yeah, we had, I don't believe we had any conflicts this year with the paving, but that's our goal, is to get on the same page with other utilities in the town paving list, so.
Do you know when those roads will be I'd have to
I'm
go
not
back
sure
and
where
look.
these ones are on the schedule. I can check and see if they're on the list or not. Take me 1 second. But neither one of them are new.
Right.
And under the reopening permit, it states that it has to be returned to the original, to the actual condition. So if it's a new road, they require them to go curb to curb. If it's not a new road, then they will allow the trench, but there is a bond to protect the trench work.
Okay.
Just see if I can find it real quick.
A new road is defined by how many years?
So 3 years,
Okay,
typically, under the state law.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, I can't tell from here, but so Great Pond Road was done in 2017, which would put it outside of the restriction. If it was actually done then, it was using Chapter 90 money, but it may not be the same section because it's so big.
Yeah, this is way up by Oz, because you're
Yeah.
talking in Butchburg Plaza. So can we, if we go with approval, can we make it contingent upon
Absolutely should be contingent on the
validating
conditions.
those conditions?
Right, another section of Great Pond Road is slated for next year, which is ideal.
Right.
Yeah, so definitely would be citing the conditions as listed in the street opening permit. Another section in 22, yeah. So it's over the years plan. So we have a 5-year, what we do is a 5-year paper management plan typically. The formulas can change depending on what the, how much we get in Chapter 90, but Great Pond Road is actually spread out over the 5-year period. So in the Osgood Street section, which is, I believe is what this is in the last year of the program.
Oh.
So.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I'll hear a motion to proceed if the inclination.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that the Select Board approve the request of Eversource to excavate portions of Salem Street and Marble Ridge Road for the purpose of replacing a gas main as presented, and that they will bring the roads back to existing condition as stated in their proposal.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. So passes 5-0. Thank you. And then, as we've been referring to, there's also a request from Eversource to excavate a portion of Great Pond Road for, again, the purpose of replacing the gas main. So if you could kind of, again, quickly
Yep.
walk us through that?
Yep, I can walk you guys through that. So for that project, we're looking to do approximately 1,000 feet of mainline replacement, starting on Osgood Street, on the far side of the road where the Casablanca restaurant driveway is. We should just be to the side of that. And then we would cross through the intersection from Osgood Street down and along Great Pond Road to about 1925 Great Pond Road is where we would end. So it's a pretty straightforward project, just crossing through the intersection and ending at that house. So.
And again, just kind of time frame and scope of timing for this?
Oh, yes. Okay. For timing, we're looking maybe June, end of May or June start date, if possible. I know for the duration too, it'll probably be a couple weeks, maybe a month's worth of work. I believe, unless Ken, you had something a little different, it could be 2 months, right?
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. But aside from that, that's really it.
Given the proximity to the lake, has conservation weighed in on any type of silt fences or anything?
Yeah. Yes. We do have environmental requirements, I believe, there.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
Mr. Chair, I'll move that the Select Board approve the request of Eversource to excavate a portion of Great Pond Road for the purpose of replacing a gas main as presented, and that they'll follow the replacement of the road to existing conditions.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0. So again, thank you. I look forward to getting that work done and all that happening for our community.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
your time.
Have a good evening. Okay, next, we have a request of Jen Fresen to raise the LGBTQ+ pride flag at the town common from June 1st to June 30th of this year. And I believe Jen is on the line with us. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, while we're waiting for her, maybe I can just quickly go through the process so everyone remembers from last
Oh,
year.
that's a
Because I
good
know we
idea.
haven't done too many of these flags. This is only our third request. So last year around this time, we had a similar request and we actually came up with a flag raising policy. So our policy does allow us to allow organizations or a North Andover resident to request the flying or raising of a flag, which we are doing tonight. It's actually an application on Viewpoint. This person has filled out an application. We know we've had much support to the application. It is the Board of Selectmen's job to review the request and then notify the applicant whether it's approved or denied. We do have a picture of the flag as required by the policy. They will be a flag raising ceremony, and I just will note that that has to happen on a normal business work day between the hours of 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. They do expect to have approximately 50 people at their flag raising. It does have to be open to the public as well. Flags by our policy are not allowed to be flown on holidays that include Memorial Day, 4th of July, Veterans Day, Flag Day, and Patriots Day. Again, the flag that they are proposing is the correct size as well. This flag is being flown in accordance with the U.S. Flag Code. We can have flags flown up to 30 days, and the request is for 30 days.
Thank you for the update. I appreciate that. Jen, can we hear you?
So if we don't have her, she did write a public comment, and perhaps I could just look in the packet quickly and see which one was hers and read it, just so we make sure that we
Sure.
represent her,
Yeah.
if that would be okay with you? Okay. Let me find it real quick. I bet she's one of the first ones. Let's see. Lori, if you find it first, let me know. I can hear her typing behind me. Oh, I see it. All right, so I'll just read that so we don't miss out on
Yep.
anything. Okay, so this is a public comment from Jennifer Friesen, who lives on Hawthorne Place. Dear members of the Select Board, tonight you have before you my request for North Andover to raise the Progress Pride flag on the town common for the month of June in recognition of LGBTQ+ Pride Month, with a flag raising ceremony on June 1st. The application does not specify a time, but fellow residents have expressed the hope that it could be held after school hours, so that our youth and their families may have the opportunity to participate. Our beautiful town is home to many families of the LGBTQ+ community, hundreds of whom are school-aged kids. Pride Month is celebrated the entire month of June, so it is important that the flag remain up the entire month. If there is a conflict, I am happy to compromise on the location. The pole in front of Town Hall would also be a great place to fly the Pride flag. The Select Board's guest flag policy, adopted last year, includes a stipulation that guest flags have to be removed on certain holidays. In the case of the Pride flag, that would mean it needs to be removed on Flag Day. I was curious about the possible reasoning for that, so I reached out to the flag expert at the national headquarters of the American Legion. I asked if U.S. Flag Code has any language suggesting that guest flags must be removed on any specific days. They replied that it does not. They said if an official half-staff proclamation is made, which would cause the guest flag to drag on the ground, it would make sense to remove the guest flag for that period, but it is not a rule. I forwarded that email exchange to each of you just prior to submitting my comment here. Given that this is part of the Select Board policy, has no basis in the U.S. Flag Code, I am requesting that the Pride flag stay up on Flag Day and the Board reconsider this piece of policy. It seems like an unnecessary burden for our DPW to lower and raise a flag twice without specific reason. More than 700 individuals supported my initial petition since last year. Since then, many have expressed how meaningful this display was to them and their families and remarked on what an overdue milestone it was for North Andover. Nearly 18 years since our state legalized marriage equality, I realize that some might feel a symbolic gesture like this is not necessary. But the LGBTQ+ people are still disproportionately targeted for harassment and violence. We and our family members still experience discrimination even here in our town, and transgender adults and children still do not have equal protections under the law. The fact that I have to ask for Pride Month to be officially recognized in our town, and that I must seek new permission every year, makes it apparent that North Andover has work to do to live up to our ideals of respect and inclusion. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration of this request. And she has a few footnotes, which according to 2017 data from the Commonwealth Massachusetts Youth Risk Behavior Survey, 14% of our youth identify as LGBTQ+. It is only April and already 15 transgender people have been murdered in the United States this year. And so that was the public comment. The only thing I would say is that unfortunately the policy is not on the agenda tonight, and it's something we may want to revisit in the future. But you guys know I'm a stickler for rules. So I just would suggest that we stay with the policy.
No, I appreciate it. We have just the request in front of us tonight, and again, we have other opportunities if the community or the board has inclination. So, any comments or?
I move that the Select Board approve the request of Jennifer Fresen to raise an LGBTQ+ Pride flag at the Town Common from June 1st to June 30th, 2021, with the exception of June 14th, in accordance with the flag raising policy.
I'll second that.
Appreciate that. Any other discussion? I think it's just great.
Great. I hope that, we can come back at some other point, and, it seems like maybe this shouldn't need to be a yearly request, but we can address that, we can figure out how to get to the bottom of that.
Great. Well, let's have our vote and make it official. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Jen, thank you again for representing the community and bringing this up. Okay, next, we have the request of George Minassian of the Armenian National Committee, Merrimack Valley, for a proclamation and commemorating the Armenian genocide. And, sir, are you on with us? Oh, okay. I don't know if there's.
We do not have a policy about proclamations. We may want to think about that in the future, though.
Okay.
Because it is always good to have benchmarks and an understanding of what we do proclamations for and what we don't do proclamations for.
Mhm.
So if that's something that the board would like, we can certainly bring that forward in another meeting.
I think that's a good idea, kind of bookmark.
Yeah.
So the piece of it. Obviously, this is something that, on at a national level, has finally been recognized. And so I would just say personally, I'm glad he brought this up, and it's an opportunity for our community to stand up. I don't know if my fellow select board members are of the same mind.
We've been doing the proclamation for quite some time now.
Yeah.
I don't know how far back, but we have been doing it.
Good. All we need is a motion to,
Mr. Chair, I move the Select Board accept the proclamation for the commemoration of Armenian genocide and read it as presented.
I'll second.
all right. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. No opposition, so passes 5-0, so thank you.
As the clerk, do you want me to actually read it, or?
Would you?
Proclamation. Whereas Armenians fled increasing oppression from the Ottoman government during the 20th century, coming to America in search of freedom, where they could live in dignity without fear and oppression. And whereas, like many ethnic groups, Armenians settled in North Andover seeking a safe place to raise their families, practice their religion, and educate their children, they became an asset to the growth and vitality of the town of North Andover through their strong work ethic, family values, and civic pride. And whereas the Armenian community of North Andover is comprised of the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of the survivors of the Armenian genocide, whereas 1.5 million Armenian men, women, and children, victims of genocide, perished in the Ottoman Empire from 1915 to 1923. Now, therefore, the North Andover Select Board does hereby issue this proclamation in remembrance of the Armenian genocide of 1915 and urge all residents to take part in this observance. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the town of North Andover to be affixed this 26th day of April in the year 2021. Chris Noble, Chair.
So thank you. Thank you, Nick, for reading that. We'll make that so. Appreciate it. Okay, next on our agenda is appointment, Select Board for the subcommittee member. Since we have sent Phil off to retirement, we need to, hope he's hanging in there okay. Hey, Phil, I'm sure you're watching. But we do need to fill that.
I need a quorum. I said I need a quorum. I'd like to appoint Janice to the subcommittee to work with me, if she'll accept, so that we can have a quorum. We have a backlog of interviews to do.
Yeah,
I'll second that.
thank you. Well, the first place the discussion starts, are you ready?
I'm so ready. I'm really looking forward. Seems like a really great way to really dive in and get people connected and get myself connected with all the different groups in town. So
It is. It's a great way to learn about all the different committees and boards and everything else that we have in
Yes.
town. And I think it's great for a new member of the board to be taking that on.
I'm really looking forward to it.
You get to learn quickly about all the different boards and how much the volunteers in our town, how many it really takes to get everything done, right? Yeah, we have a lot of interviews to do.
Let's make it official. I'm ready.
That's great, yeah, it is really exciting, and I think that's, I think that we started this not too long ago, and I think it really helps. I know it was helpful to me to kind of get oriented, Dick and Rosemary can, help me getting in, but sort of meeting with those folks, and I think you've had the same experience for us, so.
I appreciate
The baton is-
opportunity to jump in and work hard.
All right, so we just need a vote. All in favor? Aye. No opposition? 5-0. Thank you. Well, welcome,
Thank you.
and off we go. Schedule away.
Getting those interviews done, right? A lot of positions to fill.
No pressure. All right. So now we're making our way towards town meeting, and so we've got article recommendations. We still have the last 10 to 32? Just 10 to 32?
So we're not going to print until after the next meeting, but it would be good to try to get through some of these tonight.
Yeah.
We do have, I believe, many of our citizen petitioners here, so if we could start with those, I think it would be helpful. So if you don't mind, I'll okay.
Yeah.
Do we have anyone from Article 10, Marcel Cuffey, the age exemption?
Yes,
Hi, Marcel, how are you?
I'm doing all right.
Good. And so Marcel is a citizen petition, and he is trying to get a waiver for a firefighter for civil service, correct, sir?
Yes.
Okay. So these are pretty typical at town meeting. I don't know if any of you have any questions for Marcel.
Nope.
Marcel, you want to tell us a little bit about
give us
yourself?
a little- Right,
Yes. Let me see. I'm 36 years old. I've worked in public service employment. I've recently went to a court office with the Mass Trial Court, in which I went through the emergency responder training, which is the first level for being a first responder. I enjoyed that part of the training, and because of that, I decided to progress my certification to become an EMT, to do it as a part-time job. And through that process, I ended up meeting Jeff DeShins. He's the EMT coordinator for the town. Yeah. And through speaking with him, and then him, presenting the opportunity to apply to be a candidate for employment, I decided to pursue it. Wanting to be a service to the community. My wife has lived than I have. She lived in the community about 12 years. I've been about 4. And I enjoy being of service. And I felt like, this would be a pursuit I'd like to take on. Just petitioning for your approval.
I hope we see Marcel's application coming through our desk, because this is the exact applicant we like to see. So thank you. Nothing better than having somebody come up through public service and want to continue that. So.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Any questions for Marcel?
Mr. Chair, I'll move favorable action on Article 10.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Wonderful. All in favor?
Aye.
Passed 5-0. You have our recommendation, sir.
Marcel, we'll see you at town meeting,
Appreciate you.
June 15th. All right, the next citizen petition that we have is for a change in liquor quota, and I believe I saw the applicant on here earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. There he is. Okay.
Hello, sir, how are you?
Hello.
And this is a familiar face. We all remember he was
Yes.
before us before with an application. And so it's nice to see his application here tonight under the general law. So he would be going before the board, before a town meeting for an additional license, to have a license added for his property in particular. You want to tell us anything about your application, sir?
Yeah, so I mean, we currently own, wine and beer at the Andover next to the Market Basket there Plaza. So we have one business there. We also are part of the Ridgedale Convenience Store on 75 Chickering Road there, which has a wine and beer license. And we're planning to add another one, I guess, hopefully with the blessings of the select, board. We could have one more full liquor license there. I believe there used to be a liquor store there, but it's no longer there now.
Madam Chair, Madam Town Manager, I have a question on this, if I could, Mr. Chair.
Please.
So, if this passes town meeting, that means we have the availability for another license. Do we then go through, we don't then go through the same process that we did when we had an available license, do we, where they have to, there's a process?
So there's still a process. However, he is requesting a license for his actual address. So this license would only be able to be used at that address.
Okay, good.
He still would have to apply. It's very similar to Mike's Market.
Right.
Which is a process that we went through fairly recently.
Right, but that was before we put in the process for obtaining a license.
Yes, no, he still would have to apply for the license, but since it's only that one address, it certainly would be limited in nature.
Okay, so it would be kind of earmarked, if you
Yes.
will, for that address. Okay, great.
Exactly.
But that's
And
important.
Janice and I had an interesting conversation earlier that, with the 2020 census, I anticipate we may end up with additional licenses anyway. We just don't know yet. The data was just released to the president today. But it is based, our license quota is based on our census numbers. So
Right.
it'll be interesting to see what happens with that generally.
Okay. Well, do they take into account all of the additional licenses that we've already
They do not.
petitioned the state for so they just go with the base number of licenses
Yes.
that we had, and
Yes.
those don't count in as additionals? Okay. Good.
And this liquor license application is tied to the address, is it also tied to the owner?
It's, well, you know, it's interesting. So the way that he has drafted this language, yes, it is tied not only to the address, but also to the owner.
Okay.
That's good. I think those are two important specifiers as opposed to kind of creating a new one and it's a jump ball for whomever. Plus, it is a location, as you said, that was serving alcohol previously, so there's, that's in that area previously.
It's a rental property, though. Do you currently have the lease on the property, or do you own?
We don't, but we have a understanding with the landlord currently, and he's willing to lend us a space.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll move favorable approval. We'd like to see businesses in town, so I'll move favorable.
Thank you.
A second.
Appreciate it. Any other discussion? I agree with you. I think, you know, putting a viable business there with a plan, and it's consistent with kind of what was there previously, so absolutely. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? 5-0, sir. You have our recommendation at town meeting. We'll see you there.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. See you then.
I know.
Thank you.
The next item we have is an age exemption for John Baker, also firefighter, and I don't see anyone from John Baker on the call.
I see Vicki Valancourt right
I
there.
do. Wouldn't that be a kicker if you went on right when Chief McCarthy went out? So, I don't know if you want to move forward with this one without him here. Or you want to wait to see if we can get him at the May 10th meeting?
Yeah, I would like to, just,
Sure,
I think it's
absolutely.
nice to face and
Yeah, I think he deserves a
voice.
chance to.
Yeah.
All right, so the next citizen petition that we have is Joe Finn and the building moratorium. So I think what would be best is to let Joe present the article, and then I could chat with you a little bit about next steps, okay?
Yep.
Joe, you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Joe. How are you?
Welcome.
Oh, very good, thank you.
Good. All right, the floor is yours.
Yeah, and I've got a quick question on that, and that is, in terms of the article itself, do you need to know in terms of, you know, the context of how the warrant came about? I'd like to discuss that, if you want to do that, or is this just presenting it at this meeting here and then talking about it later on?
I think, so here what I'll say, Joe, I think that what I'm going to recommend to the board is that they don't take any additional action tonight until the planning board votes tomorrow night. And I know you're going to see them tomorrow night, but I would say this would be a good time to kind of air everything you can, and then we always could bring you back to if there's more information.
Okay, that sounds good.
Great.
What I'll do, and just for those people who don't know me, I'm Joe Finn and I live on Surrey Drive. And I do want to thank the board for inviting me here to talk about the warrant article that I filed that hopefully will be presented to the voters in the upcoming town meeting on June 15th. And as I just talked about, what I'd like to try to do is just kind of put this in context as to how the warrant article came about. And so, as you know, I ran for the select board in the last town election. And I guess as a side note, I do want to congratulate Dick and Janice on the wins, because I do know now how hard it is to run for these positions. But prior to running, I did talk to a number of people to better understand some of the issues concerning them in North Andover. And so what I decided to do was run on 3 issues. And one was the impact on the rapid growth in North Andover. 2 was the need for affordable housing for the seniors. And then 3 was the need to attract business in North Andover. And so at some point along the way, I put forth what I thought to be a possible solution to really the first issue, was the impact on the town with the rapid growth. And hopefully to reduce the impact of large-scale housing density in the form of a moratorium that we're here to talk about. And it was directed at multifamily dwellings. So what happened is I interacted with a lot of residents. I was out there every single day, going door to door. It was through social media, through the press. it was clear to me that the moratorium was resonating with many residents and that the issue was being directly tied to my run for the board. So it kind of overshadowed the other two issues that I thought was important and that I was running on. But I had complete strangers coming up to me while I was out on the streets, asking me who I was, and then telling me, yeah, we're gonna vote for you. And it was all about the moratorium. So I think the almost 900 voters who voted for me did so, I think, because of the moratorium. And I might be wrong about that, but it was an issue that was tied to me. So at some point, I started looking at all of this, and someone introduced me, and I hate to say this, to the North Andover Master Plan, because I'd never heard of it. And the only thing I found, the one thing I did find out is most people had never heard of it. And it's a 190-page document. It has a lot of strategies, a lot of goals, and it's divided into 7 segments. And one of them is housing. And the reason I bring it up is because in that document, it talks about some of the major concerns that the residents have in North Andover. And this came out in 2018. And these issues are the issues that the people were talking to me about. And the people, for the most part, tied it to the large-scale housing developments. So it was no surprise to find out that over 3 years ago, probably closer to 4 now, with the plan, the residents said that they were concerned with the limited school capacity, the traffic congestion increasing with more housing density. And that's where we see the tie with the large-scale housing. And then potential for losing natural resources and open spaces. So we were talking about really the character of the town. And then deep concern over the traffic and safety along the neighborhood street. And so I think we know all about those issues. We really didn't need to hear them in the plan, I guess, because we see it and experience it every day. So what I decided to do then is look at some of the housing data. And so based on the 2015 housing data, it said that North Andover had a healthy inventory of multifamily units. And so I was a little surprised at that, but then I took a look at the numbers. But what happened next, I was thinking probably a good opportunity to have a pause in the construction of the large-scale multifamily units, which is kind of what I'm suggesting now. But what we saw is an increase in that housing. So when we looked at it, we saw West Mill, the Avalon project, where we had 200 market rate units. We had the East Mill, which was 140 market rate units. We had the former Knights of Columbus, which is, as you probably know, on Sutton Street with 136 market units. And then we had the Vegeta Farms, which is the Princeton Properties, with 192 market units. So we had 668 market rate units, after we were told that we had a healthy inventory of multifamily units, and after residents had told us that they're worried about the overcrowding of schools and the overcrowding on the streets. And the reason I raise that, and the interesting point is that most of the residents that I talked to didn't even know about the 476 units that have been approved, but yet they haven't even started construction. So when they were talking to me, they were referencing other places. They were talking about Compass Point, Berry Farms, Vegeta Farms, and then of course they were also talking to me about Merrimack College project that calls for 1,641 units, the hotel, the dormitories that are going to be on Route 114. And I think also, which is good to know, is that a lot of people still, believe it or not, didn't even know about the Merrimack College project when I talked to them on the streets. So you can see right now how we started talking about the moratorium and how it started resonating with the people. And what I think is it may even gain momentum. I don't know. When the people find out that the 476 new units start construction. Because ultimately what I think, it comes down to what they see and then what they experience out there. And please understand, I want to make this clear, is that I'm not blaming anybody and I'm not blaming any board. There could have been great reasons for having this. But the people are just reacting to what they see. So what I'm trying to do is just trying to get this to the town meeting, and hopefully you'll help even if you disagree with it. I want to just talk a little bit too about a conversation I had with Melissa, because it was about the market rate housing. I wanted to get her thoughts, since she probably wasn't here at the time. And I've met with Melissa a couple of times, and she's always available to talk. She cares very much about the town, and she's very patient. I have to throw that in there. And I appreciate her help a lot. But I know she's focusing on this issue because when I attended a meeting, I saw a meeting a few months ago, she had talked about the significant change in our market rate housing over the last few years. I'm sorry, yes. And that not only took into account the single family housing, but also in the multifamily housing, which caused a delta in our affordable housing. And I think we just had approval to bring someone on board to help with this issue, which will give you an idea of how big the challenge is and how important it is. But the reason I mention that statement, because I think when you have a significant change in anything, it really affects just one area. In this case, we're talking about one portion of the housing. And it is certainly, I think, reasonable to argue that you will see a delta in many other areas, such as the public schools, municipal services, police and fire, sewer, water, road infrastructure, motor vehicle traffic, which leads us to the moratorium. And the moratorium, although temporary, talks about a comprehensive study. Now, the study is meant to show the impact or delta of multifamily construction projects individually and in the aggregate on each of the issues stipulated in the warrant, so that we can see the change or the delta as each housing project is coming onto the market individually and then all together, and thereby know what resources are remaining to deal with any additional housing growth. A great thing, I think, great thing for planning purposes. And let me just give you an example. School capacity. What is the estimated increase in the number of students for each project? Now, I've been told, and it's my understanding, that we haven't been doing that for all of the projects. It's my understanding we are doing it with some. One would be the proposal of the Merrimack College project. But then once you have that number, the study will then be able to stipulate how many additional students we can handle without adding more teachers, a new school, and obviously this can be used for budgetary reasons. But we have 25 goals and 101 strategies in the master plan, but I don't think there's one goal or strategy dealing with this issue. And I know it's probably about 2/3 of our budget. Another example is like the sewer and water systems. In the master plan, it states that our water and sewer systems both have surplus capacity. Hopefully this study will be able to show the impact on each project on that capacity, so that we know how much more capacity we have as we make decisions on future large-scale housing developments. I also think it's important just to discuss some of the benefits that may come about as a byproduct of the moratorium, because when I've talked to people, some people are a little bit reserved about it, thinking maybe the whole town shuts down. So, but you are still able to go forward with almost everything that we're doing right now, everything that's in the master plan. I believe the moratorium affects maybe one goal, two goals, one or two strategies out of that entire plan. So we can move forward with almost everything. Also, it gives you the opportunity to focus on attracting new business, hopefully, so we have less reliance on large-scale housing development. And we already see this happening. For example, on 114, I believe someone's interested in using the old Ethan Allen building and Salem building for new business. Also, I believe the zoning board is looking at potential rezoning of some residential area across the street from Burger King on 114. So we've got hundreds of thousands of square feet of empty buildings throughout North Andover. So I think it's more of a balance. And so we've got probably a little bit too many large-scale housing developments, and hopefully we can offset this with economic development. Also, maybe the opportunity to work with the new affordable housing consultant before adding any more housing, and maybe the opportunity to explore some affordable housing options that we're already looking at. It was discussed and just as you probably know, it was discussed during a Community Preservation Committee meeting, where the Housing Authority is looking to create a nonprofit arm so that they can do development. And they have a conceptualized design for one of the properties already. And the Housing Authority would have no market rate, or whatever we develop would be 100% affordable, is my understanding. So these are some of the things that we can do. And for me, it's simply a pause that allows us to better understand the impacts on significant change that we've experienced or will be experiencing with the large-scale housing, and time to understand what is the best solution when it comes to large-scale housing density in the future. So hopefully you can help me through the process. I am new to this. I'm completely out of my element when it comes to this. But it was one of the things I said when I talked to people, that I would try to move this issue forward for those people who voted for me. And that's what I'm trying to do. And so I thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Joe. So this is what I would recommend. I recommend a few things. First, we have received a legal opinion. I'm not going to reference it quite yet, because once I reference it, it becomes public. But what I would like you to do is to vote to make it public, and that's for 3 reasons. One, there is some deficiencies with the article. Joe and I met on Thursday, and I did kind of clue him in that I thought there was some deficiencies that we now, as of this morning, I forwarded an opinion to all of you that will help with that. I also think in the opinion, there is some things that the moderator is going to need to do and consider, and this will help him get ready for that. But third, and most importantly, the planning board is having their public hearing tomorrow, and it would be really helpful for them to have the opinion as well. And so the first thing I would like to ask you to do is to make the opinion public, and I think we could do it since we're talking about the article, and it's directly related to the article. So that's the first thing I would like to ask you to do. The second thing I would like to ask you to do is refer the article to the planning board, because we had not done that yet. And we need to by law. So that's the second thing I would like to ask you to do. And the third thing I would like to ask you to do is to wait to take a position on the article until our next meeting on May 10th, for a couple of reasons. One, it will give everybody in the town a chance to absorb the legal opinion, right? What we would do is we'd make it public. I'd send it to Mr. Finn. I'd send it to the planning board. We'd post it on our website so everybody could be on the same page. But then additionally, I could have Judge Cutler come here and speak to you if you have questions, or you could give me the questions and I could give them to Judge Cutler, who's representing us on this, giving us advice on this matter.
But for the people at home, it's not in her
No, she's a
capacity
former
as a judge. She's now.
She's a former judge, but
Right.
the lawyer in me always goes to the highest title. So
And that's a very nice thing, and you
Yeah,
should
she's a
always do that. But I just wanted the people
Yes.
at home to understand, we do not have, an attorney making.
yes, the town is in good hands, though. She's a former land court judge, and so this is right in her wheelhouse. She was quite excited, almost as nerdy as I am when it comes to town meeting articles. So we had a great conversation. I think it would be really helpful to give everybody a chance just to kind of absorb all of this so that we could have a more active discussion. The fourth thing, actually, that releasing the opinion would do is that we are having a lot of issues with the senior center not closing due to the pending moratorium, and maybe this would help that. So I would request that. I'd request that you wait until May 10th, even maybe to have discussion, because I think the planning board discussion will probably be very enlightening, and maybe we could invite Mr. Finn to come back on May 10th if he'd be willing, in case we have questions for him. I don't know what you all think.
That sounds fair and reasonable.
Sounds like a good path forward.
Okay, so there'd be 2 motions. One would be a motion to release a legal opinion to the public, and the second motion would be to refer the article to the planning board for a public hearing, which is tomorrow.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we make the legal opinion regarding the moratorium public document.
Thank you.
I'll second that. Oh, sorry, Janice.
And that would be immediately, right? So that's,
Yes, I'll release it tomorrow morning.
okay, great. Any other discussion on that? Mr. Governor, all in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously.
I guess where will it be available, on the website?
We'll put it on the website. I'll
Okay.
email it to Mr. Finn, planning board, and town moderator.
Okay, great.
And then a motion to
Refer this to the planning
refer to the
board.
planning board.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the Board of Selectmen refer Article 32 to the planning board and make a recommendation after the planning board issues their recommendation.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion on that? I think we're all good. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, 5-0, so refer that. So in essence, this moves forward to our next meeting, anticipating to have the more robust and informed discussion at that time. Okay, all right.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, board, I appreciate it. Have a great night.
Right up.
Night.
Bye now.
All right, we're done with the citizen petitions.
Okay.
The next article is the capital improvement plan. If you remember correctly, it feels like about 10 years ago that we presented this. It has not been 10 years. It's about a $5.8 million plan. Approximately $1 million of it is actually being funded by grants and CPC funding. And the other $4.8 million is going to be funded through free cash. And again, the reason that we're using free cash this year is because we're trying to save debt capacity within the levy so that we can do some of our bigger projects that we have coming on. And additionally, we know that free cash is going to be replenished because we just got a $5 million Amazon permit fee.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
That was casually slipped in.
Oh, by the way.
Oh, by the
Yeah,
way.
very exciting. And there's actually still 2 more permits to come. So it'll probably be over $6 million in the end.
Great.
Yeah.
They're really making progress over
They're
there.
really
They're-
making progress. It's really exciting.
Quite amazing when you go down there.
Yeah.
So not to be too greedy about it all, but is any, do you foresee any possibility of the American Recovery, that money being able to impact our capital improvement plan for next year?
So I don't know yet. We do know we're going to be getting approximately $9 million total. We have not gotten guidance yet on when the funding is coming.
Yeah.
We know the first disbursement's supposed to be in May, but we haven't received any guidance on exactly when, how it's going to come. We've learned that there's 4 different eligible criterias, but they haven't told us, how those will be bucketed. The real capital articles, the capital items that they talk about is interestingly, broadband, water, and sewer. But, we were in a meeting today with a project that is higher than expected due to COVID costs. And so, do I anticipate that may happen? It could. Unfortunately, it's because materials are so expensive.
The more, may be able to help us kind of close some gaps more than change any of these parameters.
We hope we'll know more in the next, I know no one's more frustrated than Lynn, who, wants to know now, and I agree, me too. So hopefully we get something soon, we're able to get more information out.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Any other questions or about the capital improvement plan as we previously covered?
No, all these items are line items and they just get spent. It doesn't mean that they need to be, the project completed in fiscal year '22. They're just.
Yeah, what happens is we create capital accounts. And that way if we go into multiple fiscal years, that's fine. But these are the projects that the funding is slated for.
So they'll have kind of like a placeholder.
It's like an earmark.
Yep. Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
gotcha.
Thank you.
Can I ask, what is the cutaway minibus? That sounds very intriguing.
The minibus is for the senior center, correct? Yes, the senior center.
So is it like the roof cut off?
I don't think so. I'm assuming that we're getting a double-decker bus. Yeah, it's a convertible. I don't know the answer to that, but I know it is for the senior center.
Okay.
So they can get places fast.
Extra air, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'll move favorable action on Article 13.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed unanimously, 5-0. Okay.
All right, the next article is the CPC committee, and I will say that was the best CPC presentation I've ever seen. So I can't imagine you have any questions for me on that one.
That was
You did a
wonderful.
great job.
Great job.
Mr. Chair, I'll move favorable action on Article 14.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes. 5-0 unanimously.
Very good projects.
Okay.
All right, the next article is setting the salaries and compensation of elected officials. No changes.
Mr. Chair, I'll move favorable action
Thank you.
on Article 15.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Favorable action, 5-0 passes.
Okay, the next article is our revolving fund spending limit. So if you remember correctly, under the Modernization Act, they actually changed the way that we do this. So every year, we now vote the accounts and the amounts. It used to be that you just kind of did a schedule. Now it's actually a bylaw change every year. So that's basically what we're doing. We are adding the Stevens Estate revolving account. This year we did a max of $300,000 because I can't imagine we would expend more than that, but will give us a chance to kind of get used to it and then see how it will work. Other than that, the only other new one is the tax title revolving account. So we've become more aggressive with our tax title. It used to be under the law you had to budget tax title, but now they allow you to do it under a revolving account. So it's much more legitimate and easier way for us to pay for it because we never actually know what it's going to be. So.
And just for, I guess, people at home, can you just explain a revolving, is it,
Yeah.
it's something where you don't, a line item, your expenditure, right? It's something that you need to go to.
Yep,
for
so
things
it's basically usually made of user fees or receipts for a particular purpose, and then the money can only be expended for a particular purpose, and you can only spend up to that amount each year. So a really good example would be the school's lunch one, and I don't see it that way, we don't have it here, but most towns do have a school lunch one. It may not be on here because free lunch this year, but so typically what happens is the money comes in that pays for lunch, and then the money that gets expended to pay for the lunch workers. And so that's a good example of it.
And this also helps, again, set the table for how we're looking at the Stevens Estate
Yeah.
potentially going forward. Helps
Yep.
us set that table. Yep, gotcha. Just need a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll move favorable action on Article 16.
Thank you. 17. I think.
Oh, sorry.
17.
No, it's 16.
16, you got it.
16. Okay, yeah. All in favor?
Oh, we need a second.
Oh, so did I'm sorry, I thought I saw Dick second it, but, yeah.
What's that?
Do you second it for us?
Oh, sure, I'll second it. I thought Jana seconded it. I didn't, yeah, there's a little confusion.
Getting
there,
punchy.
Yeah, it's all good, it's all good. All in favor?
Aye.
so. Aye.
Aye, okay.
Okay, so the next article is the budget. We are not planning on making any changes to the budget. We actually were within $5,000 of the new updated local aid numbers. So that was a good guess on our part. So we won't be making any changes due to those increases. Most of our COVID spending is actually in a separate article. We don't anticipate using any of the American Rescue Funds to make up for lost revenues. Well, revenues are down. We think we can get through this year, and we're very aware of not creating structural deficit. So we're keeping the budget as proposed. And it was voted on favorably by the Finance Committee.
Would the money coming in from the feds, how about like meals tax though? Like, would we make that up? Because we
We've thought about
anticipate
that.
that it would.
Yeah, we've thought about that. One of the things, and I asked at, I don't know if you were at that meeting, I asked at the MMA conference what they thought we should do with the meals tax and whether or not they thought we even could estimate it up. And they said they wouldn't. They think, based on, Sean Cronin at DOR basically said that they think it may take a little while for people to become comfortable going to restaurants again. And while meals tax suffered, people still continue to get takeout, so this could just be a new level.
New norm.
Yeah, so I think for now, we're just gonna ride it out.
Right.
I see the OPEB trust is again funded this year, which is
It
good.
is.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, good. Well, I'll just hear a motion on that.
Mr. Chair, I'll move favorable action on Article 17.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful.
Okay, so Article 18 is the Water Enterprise Fund.
Mr. Chair, I'll move favorable action.
Thank you.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0 again.
Article 19 is the Sewer Enterprise Fund.
Once again, Mr. Chair, I'll move favorable action on Article 19.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously, 5-0.
Article 20 is the Stevens Estate Enterprise Fund. So if you remember correctly, this is a little unusual this year. We are only creating a budget through October. If you remember correctly, the reasoning on that was that we were very hesitant about where revenues were going to be, and we did not want to end up in a situation like we ended up this year. So the thought process would be either we will have a contract in place, which I'm feeling very confident about, or two, we would have to have a fall town meeting. But I'd rather have a fall town meeting than be unable to certify our tax rate.
And the fall town meeting would be to take money from the revolving account.
The fall town meeting would be to create the rest of the budget. So if we did not sign a contract with Fireside by some chance, we would need to create a budget that would be from November to June 30th.
Oh, I see, okay.
I just would want to do that after we set the tax rate so we wouldn't run into the same issue as this year because I don't anticipate that we'd be allowed to make a stabilization transfer again.
Because that was due to COVID, correct?
Right, there's special legislation that allowed us to do that due to COVID. So,
And although things are moving favorably, we don't know that the Stevens estate would be back to normal by the
we don't.
fall.
I mean, that's the hard part. Right now, we know that events are still limited to 150 outside. We have not seen any indication that those numbers would be increasing, and I'd be surprised to see that. You know, we haven't seen the rollout of parades or other types of festivals like that yet. I think they're probably going to try to keep the numbers lower at that 150 mark for a while.
Yep, definitely coming through the summer.
Yeah.
And then if we come to terms with Fireside, they would take over.
October 15th. So this would line up nicely. Fingers crossed that we can work it all out.
But that comes fast, you know?
It does.
It does come
5
fast.
months is like that.
Yep.
Right.
Yes. I'm hoping that we have everything in place before town meeting so that we can have certainty in making this
Right,
vote.
right.
Mr. Chair, I'll move favorable action on Article 20.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, passed unanimously.
All right, Article 21 is a transfer of stabilization. We're transferring $140,162 from free cash to the stabilization fund. This will bring it up to the 5% of the general fund revenue from the year before, per our policy. It's about $5 million.
Mr. Chair, I'll move favorable action.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously.
Okay, Article 22 is transfer to capital stabilization. So this is to see if the town will vote to transfer $350,000 from free cash to capital stabilization. This is more than what the policy dictates. However, we're trying to save up money to do design, et cetera, for Facilities Master Plan 2. And while we have the free cash, I think it makes sense to start saving some of that for that purpose.
Yeah.
The less we have to take in debt, the long run, the better, as we're trying to get these big projects done.
Yeah, plus I think we're facing an interest rate squeeze at some
We
point.
may be.
We can't count on rates like this forever,
No.
so,
Well, I think it gives confidence to the residents that we're going to move forward.
yeah.
We're
yeah,
putting the pieces in place to move forward with Facilities Master Plan 2.
yeah, that process has worked for us for the last 10 years, so it's, yep, great,
Mr. Chair, I move favorable action on Article 22.
thank you.
I'll second that.
All in
Chair, if I
favor?
could ask one
Yes, sir.
question of the town manager. So do we know, why hasn't the finance committee provided their recommendation? Did they just not get to these articles? I know.
We are meeting again tomorrow. I don't remember. I
And
thought
they
they
stopped
voted, I
the
thought they
Stevens
voted on
estate.
everything, but they didn't. Yeah, they're meeting again. I was there for the budget only, and then I left, so I watched them, but they're meeting again tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, because they
Wednesday.
seem to have stopped at Article
Yeah.
20. Okay.
May 4th.
But
Okay.
but you're right, they usually, we sequence right after them, for
Right.
this sort of thing.
Do you want to wait?
I'm going to vote on this.
Yeah, I'm fine. Is the rest of the board comfortable? Okay.
Okay, so the next article is the transfer from free cash to the fiscal 21 school department revolving fund. It's something we do every year, and it is the exact amount of Medicare reimbursement that they get. So in order to get Medicare reimbursement, it's actually a ton of work for the school department. They put all of the work in by doing all of these filings, and every year we reimburse them from free cash. The money that they get from doing it goes to the general fund, which means it ends up in free cash.
That's the money that they put towards curriculum, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, just a point of order.
Yes.
I don't believe we voted on Article 22.
Oh, did they miss it?
I made there was a motion made in a second, then I asked a question.
And I wrote favorable in big letters and moved on. Sorry.
Yeah, I asked a question about why the finance committee hadn't,
Right.
and then I don't believe we've actually voted on that article.
Bring it back.
Since it just happened 2 minutes ago, you're probably right.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, let's try this again. Article 23.
All right, thanks for keeping us on line.
Mr. Chair, I'll move favorable action on Article 23.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, unanimously.
Okay, so Article 24 is to transfer $1.34 million from free cash to this year's budget to offset COVID expenses. I had a conversation with Lynn today. Right now, I'm keeping this on the warrant. However, as we're closing out the fiscal year, we're hoping we may not need it. So snow and ice, we are deficit spending, but not to the degree that we typically would be. So amazing. Although we did have snow this week twice, so maybe we shouldn't be so excited. But we have not yet used the Finance Committee reserve at all, which is $1.5 million. So if, as we move forward, we're able to close out, we may not have to do this transfer at all. I may have more information on May 10th. I may not. If you want to wait to take action on it, I'm fine with that.
We could wait all the way up to town meeting, really.
We can, and it may make sense to do that.
So
Okay.
I would think,
Before the town meeting?
yeah, I just want to, is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Since it's just really a matter of the cash flow
Okay,
process.
so no action.
Okay.
All right, and then for Article 25, this is to see if the town will vote to transfer a sum of $2.7 million from free cash to the general fund to cover COVID expenses. So this is for the fiscal year 22 schools and towns COVID expenses. The town was about $133,000, and the schools were the rest. Superintendent Gilligan and I have talked about what to do with this. At this point, because we do not yet know what the money from the federal government is going to look like. We know we have to have it last for 2025. We don't know if it's going to be prospective on how we have to use it. I'm going to leave it here. Again, it may be something we want to wait on voting on because we may have more information as time comes.
Again, we're all good with waiting, I think,
Okay.
right up to town meeting if we need to.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, so Article 26, to transfer funds from overlay surplus to the fiscal year 22 budget for the Assessors Department. So if you remember correctly, we transferred funds from the overlay surplus last year to pay for the acquisition of the senior center parking lot. The overlay surplus account, basically what happens is every year we appropriate about $550,000 to overlay. And what overlay is the money that we hold to settle our ATB cases. So if somebody thinks that their tax bill is not correct, they can appeal, and we have this bucket of money to settle those cases in case we lose or we want to settle them. But every year, we basically inventory that money, see what we have left for cases, and make a determination whether or not there's a surplus. And when there's a surplus, we can petition the Board of Assessors to release that surplus, is what we're doing. But what we're doing specifically this year is we are taking this $40,000, investing it back into the assessing department so that they can meet statutory requirements for data collection in commercial and industrial properties. It really has a lot to do with personal property. Doing this is going to allow us to better capture personal property, which is something that we haven't done a fabulous job of in the past. And so I'm really excited to see how this helps us grow. So is Bill. Bill is our town assessor, is very progressive and really very good. So we're excited to see that. So that's what this is.
So really, the other thing it does is it helps with the fairness proportion of the residents who are carrying, obviously, the lion's share, to make
Absolutely.
sure everybody else is carrying their share
Yes.
of the value, so,
It's exciting, and it's good to invest back in the department.
yeah,
So we're excited about that.
good. Just have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll move favorable action on Article 26.
Thank you.
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now we're getting into the zoning articles. Lori and I talked about this earlier, and I didn't know if you wanted to invite Aton to come. They're all pretty simple. This first one, so in May 2019 town meeting, voted to approve these two dimensional amendments per Article 29. And there should have been a corresponding warrant article to update Table 2, only it was left off. So it's really just housekeeping. I don't know if you want to vote on it. They have already voted, the planning board has already voted for favorable action.
So really, it'd be edification from them, but we already have their action on it.
Yes,
And what was the vote?
they were favorable.
But was it unanimous or?
They didn't say, they just said favorable. Right, but they didn't give us what the votes were.
What's the thought of the board here?
I spoke with Anton, and he had said that the things that they were putting forth were really just housekeeping, so I feel pretty comfortable. I will make a motion that we recommend favorable action
All right,
on Article 27.
I'll second that.
thank you. Any other discussion or concerns on that? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Article 28, again, is a pretty simple one. It is to take the business 4 district and include personal services establishments. Interestingly, personal services establishments are missing from many of our zoning districts, and it comes up often. It's coming up right now, but it comes up, and what ends up happening is that they have to go for a use variance, which isn't great, so I think they're trying to fix that here.
Just so people understand, what are personal services?
Oh, that's like a hair salon, barber shop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Mr. Chair, I recommend favorable action on Article 28.
Thank you. Michelle? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then again, in the historic mill area, under our downtown overlay district, they want to include personal services establishments.
Mr. Chair, I recommend favorable action on Article 29.
All in favor?
Aye.
Doing great.
So for Article 30, again, it's housekeeping. So there was edits that needed to be made to the boundaries and zones narrative so that they would be consistent with Table 1 and 2. Minor edits to the uses and building requirements, and other minor edits to the cross references and special permits requirements. And then there was an inclusion of a diagram that they felt like it wasn't very clear in the original zoning bylaw, so they created diagrams to clarify the buffer zones.
Sounds pretty straightforward. Mr. Chair, I'll move favorable action.
Thank you.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimously.
All right, so the next one is the sign and sign lighting regulation. So if you remember correctly, this was one of your goals. Suzanne Egan drafted these, town council. She brought them before you, and you heard from her, and then you sent them to the planning board. The planning board has gone ahead and made a recommendation, which I am looking for, and it's here somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, they recommended favorable action. And most of what this is doing was really regulating the placement of signs on private property in a content-neutral manner. So if you remember correctly, we talk a lot about signs. What you want to do is you want to have regulations in place that apply to how signs look, where signs are, but not to what is actually written on the signs.
Yeah, we went through that with
Yeah.
business on downtown here,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Comes up a lot.
Mr. Chair, I'll recommend favorable action on Article 31.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye. All right, we did it. So we will bring Article 32, which is the moratorium, back at our next meeting.
Great, great. All right,
Okay.
where are we now? All right, so with that, the other governmental reports.
Sure, I'm gonna give a quick COVID
Yes.
update. I let Brian first day back from vacation, so I didn't wanna make him stay up late. So he helped me here though. So as a state, we had 812 new cases today, with just over 1,100 yesterday. Hospitalizations are still around 600. We were at 625 today, which means that there's still good capacity left in many of the hospitals. Currently, we actually have 70 active cases in town, and on Thursday, we actually had 94. So we have been seeing things bumping up a little bit, and obviously that's concerning, and we want people to really be aware of that. Of the 70 active cases that we have, 13 are actually higher ed. Our percent positivity is low. It's at 0.8. It's actually the second lowest in Essex County. I looked that up today. The lowest is Nahant. But other than that, we really were pretty far away from everybody else. One of the reasons may be the amount of tests that's being done at Merrimack College. We are still yellow in the state's risk map. And I have a feeling we will be remaining yellow for a while, unfortunately. As of Thursday, 51% of our total residents have been vaccinated once, and 34% of our residents have been fully vaccinated. It was about 10,000 people. For ages 75 plus, 93% have had one shot, and 84% are fully vaccinated. Right now, our 0 to 19 obviously is still the smallest, with 2% fully vaccinated. But right now, children 16 and over are eligible for Pfizer. And so, I know today there was a walk-in clinic in Lawrence that was doing 16 over with Pfizer. There's been quite a few appointments available lately. So if people are still looking for appointments, I think it would be great to look there. We have opened Town Hall. We're opened Monday to Thursday just to maintain our cohorts, because we are only allowed to still be at 50% occupancy. And those of you that have been in will see that we are utilizing greeters. We are required to have those for our contact tracing. We have 2 right now. We need more, so we have posted that. Basically, as you come in, you're being screened about your any COVID symptoms that you might have. You're telling us you haven't traveled. You're signing in so that if anything does happen, we know where you've been. We have your name and your address and your phone number so that we can contact you. It's been pretty steady. I was in a meeting in the lobby for an hour on Thursday, and about 14 people came in on that hour period. So it certainly has been pretty steady. We're very thankful to the greeters because I think they weren't really sure what to expect. And it is kind of an awkward interaction. I did it a few times today. But we do appreciate everybody cooperating. And I know a lot of people have been really happy to be back in the building. Some people don't know we're open, so they're still calling, and then we're like, come on in. But it's been really good. The senior center is still running classes, so we've been really excited about that, and it's been going really well. The library is still open by appointment, but we're working on getting them open as well. So we're excited to finally see things kind of opening up. And as we all know, the schools are starting to go back over the next month. My kids are back, and it's very exciting. So I'm sure everybody else will be very excited as well. And we're all looking forward to that.
Great. Yeah. No, that vaccination rate is that's really great. That's awesome.
It really is. It's such a relief.
Yeah. Keep
Such
it up.
a relief. So.
And middle school went back today?
Yeah, and the high school's back later this week.
Thursday, right?
Wednesday.
Yeah.
But what parent here isn't keeping track of that,
No,
right?
no.
Not that we're counting. Yeah.
TikTok, so that's great.
Very exciting.
Yep.
And kudos to I know I said this in my CAM update, but kudos to the school department and to the school committee for it's been a tough year, and they've done a lot of work to get those kids back. So we're excited. You've seen all the tents.
I know they're all over the place.
Right. And then just a quick update on the Fields project. So as you know, we did win summary judgment in our case regarding the CPC funding. So kudos to town council. She did a valiant argument. The plaintiff has filed a motion to reconsider. So we are waiting for the judge's ruling on that motion. We still do have the other 2 cases pending. We have, though, started working, since we won the summary judgment, we have started working with the architect to prepare bid specs for advertisement. And so we'll be bringing more information on that forward. But, we're starting to get hopeful on a lot of things, so that's exciting.
How long should we expect to wait for that?
For the reconsideration, It's usually, with COVID, it's so hard to know, but it's usually about 90 days.
Okay.
So it's not like a regular appeal where it goes to a different judge, it's the same judge who hears the reconsideration. So it's good because you don't have to bring the whole, file
thing
forward.
back, right?
Yeah.
Good. No, it's great to see movement.
Yeah, we're excited. So fingers crossed.
And the opinion is pretty, it's detailed to read,
Yeah.
but it's pretty clear as to what the logic was and why the decision was the way it was. So that's sort of helpful, I think, in the meantime.
There's no new information.
Right.
No.
Right.
Good.
That's that.
All right, so consent. First on our list, accept a grant from the Mass Cultural Council in the amount of $500 to Youth and Recreation Services. Just looking here, got a very nice letter to Rick from the Executive Director. I don't know if there's anything else that we'd add to it other than thank you.
What are the grants used? Do you know what they're going towards?
I do not know what it's going towards. It is a cultural commission grant, so it usually has to be some type of educational festival or program.
I just saw that they post something
Shows in
on
the
this.
common, there you go. Thank you,
Yeah.
Laurie.
Yeah, there is something that came out this past week that listed
All the
out
winners, yeah.
all the grants and sort of where they were
Where they're
going. It was
going.
pretty amazing,
Mhm. It's
actually.
great, yeah.
The span,
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah. Thanks for the clarification, Larry. And then there was also a grant from the North Andover Cultural Council in the amount of $1,000 to youth and recreation services. Yeah, we'll see if we can hunt down that specific reference. And then we have a grant from the Mass Department of Fire Services in the amount of $14,904.90 to the fire department. This was pretty nice
Very nice.
pickup, and that was for
It's for gear.
gear. Good. And then the last thing we have is waiving a right of first refusal has been our tradition for an affordable unit resale for 2602 Trapello Road. And that's again consistent with what our policy's been to keep it in the pool of affordable units. So I just need a motion to accept the consent items if that's our consensus.
So moved?
Thank you.
I'll second.
Great. Any other discussion? Other than thank you? All in favor?
Aye.
Right, pass unanimously. Thank you again. Approval of the minutes from our open session of April 5th, 2021. Any additions or changes?
No.
Comfortable with that? I'll hear a motion over.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that the select board approve the open session minutes of April 5th, 2021 as written.
Thank you.
I second that.
Appreciate it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, old business, we don't have anything listed. We covered a lot. Town manager report, I think we covered a
I
lot.
think we covered a lot,
All right.
yeah, I'm good.
Comments from
A
board?
quick thank you to the garden club for the cleanup at the park across from the library this past weekend. I was there with the scouts, and many hands made light work, and it looks great.
You know, there was a tree planting going on this past weekend as well. I think it was hosted or sponsored by the high school.
Yeah.
And I believe they were doing carbon offset for their yearbook, which was pretty cool, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very
Great.
cool.
Great thought, great thought.
That was a great program. They sold a ton, didn't they?
I've seen a few planted
Have they?
around in my friend's yards. They look great.
think
Right
two-
now, they're sticks. I can't wait for them to.
245 trees is
That's
the
great.
number if I recall.
And I know my grandson planted at least one, so I was very happy with
There
that.
you go.
Very cool.
Boy, he must be getting big, he's planting trees.
Planted the trees.
It's all like his grandpa.
Get out his little shovel.
Townwide cleanup has been postponed due to the weather on Sunday. It was not great for cleanup, so they've decided to postpone.
Okay.
No, no.
The only thing I note is, and it's been posted on our town website, the Route 125 corridor planning study. We've got site visits, so that's this coming Saturday from 10 to 12:45. There's a link on the town website, and it's an opportunity to truly be engaged and sort of hands-on in this process, and this is one portion of that study, and again, I really encourage folks, this is our opportunity to have real input, even though it is a state project, so.
And Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think, I just remembered this. We actually had a former select board member pass away, Jack Graham.
Oh, right. Yes, good
And so I
call.
if we could remember him, I believe, his services might actually be tomorrow.
He actually served on school committee, board of selectmen, the senior center committee, amongst many others. He was he was a lovely man, graduated from MIT, and he will be greatly missed. Big member of the Lions Club. He was very involved in the town of North Andover, and he has a lovely wife named Franny, and he'll be greatly missed.
Thank you, Rebecca. Appreciate it. Okay, our next meeting is scheduled for the 10th. We've got, so stay tuned for that. Seems like we've got a lot of pieces to put together for that meeting. So thank you again, and I'll just hear a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Take care, everybody. Stay healthy. We'll see you on the 10th.